video for what we learned this week about this particular issue. So this is a touchscreen board, whether it's a TV touchscreen board, an active panel, or it's an active Inspire board where you're using your finger to touch. Okay? You can't click anymore to advance the slide with your finger. If you have the stylus, you can still click to advance with the stylus, or you can come down here into the corner and bring up the backward and forward that Google has. Those are two ways to advance the slide, but I just learned this. You can also, still with the touch board in your finger, swipe and it will advance the slides. You're swiping right to left to go forward and left to right to go backwards. That's something Google built into Google Slides for any touch interface.
On Wednesday, I ran some Pear Deck classes and I learned a couple of things about the platform I'd like to share with you. The first thing I learned, really super important, is when you go to peardeck.com to review your sessions, take a look at your settings profile. When you're here, you can click on settings and you can turn on or off certain things. For example, asking students questions about their mood or feedback on the lesson. In beta testing is an immersive reader, which allows them to have stuff read on the slides. And you can turn on a quick access for Google Classroom so you can share things from your Pear Deck there. And I require the login with Google. Another really cool thing I learned here is when you end your session and name it, you have a couple of different options. First, you get to share a reflect and review link that you could copy and insert into Google Classroom assignments. This gives students a copy of your full slideshow that you presented in Pear Deck and what they wrote on each slide, and I'll show you that in a minute. You can generate a Google Doc takeaway, which is a Google Doc, really same thing, kind of a summary of the lesson and just what they wrote, not the entire class's work, but just their own individual. And that's actually found in the shared with me section of Google Drive. The unfortunate part about that is they would have to go in the shared with me and file it. That's why I'm really liking this copy or share to Google Classroom, this review, reflect and review link. When you open it as a teacher, I thought this was really cool because if you run the class and you want to look at what a certain person did during your slideshow, you can click on their name and kind of go through and see what they picked for answers. Again, that's the reflect and the review piece of Pear Deck. And I hope we learn more about the platform this year. Thanks.
This is a real short what we learned this week message. So Google Forms used to have a little gear icon up here in the upper right-hand corner next to send. That was your settings for that Google form. That settings has now been moved down here with the tabs like questions, responses, and settings. You can see that when you first look at some of these settings sections, there's a down arrow over here that gives you more of those options. So if you're looking for options on whether you want to collect email addresses, everything else, they're all still here. They've just been moved to a new section. In addition, they've added form defaults. This section here was hidden before, but these are defaults that when you set them, every time you start a new form, it will automatically have these settings set. So this isn't for this form, it's for all of your forms down here. These top ones are just for the current form you're working on. Show you a new feature in Google Meets that you may not be aware of. So often when you start a Google Meet and you want to post polls or you want to change what permissions people have in the host controls, you don't have the time to do that when you're teaching the class. So you do have the ability now in Google to take any other person, a co-teacher or an aide that's in the room with you, and designate them as a co-host where they will get those abilities and powers. So you just go to your people pane down here, you find the person like Vanessa over there that you want to give access to being a co-host. You click the three dots, you say grant host controls, and now it'll tell you that she is also a meeting host. So what she's now doing is she's going into the activity pane and she's setting up a poll, which before only the teacher who was the originator or organizer of the meeting could do. So what you're going to see in just a second is if I come over here and I click into polls, her poll will be there ready for the students to do. So it allows you to kind of split the work of running a Google Meet. Okay, so the blue dot appeared saying there's a poll there, and now I can see how was your week? Great, ready for the weekend. I don't think those are mutually exclusive though, Vanessa. I think it could have been a great week and I'm ready for the weekend. But you can see that she could have launched the poll or I can launch the poll. It doesn't matter who does it. However, if she launches it, I will have to go back out and go back in before that I see it's launched, but I'll launch it.
Thanks.
All right. So that's how you can share the hosting abilities in a Google Meet. It's simply a matter of clicking on the people pane, picking the person out of the list, and then clicking the three dots and saying, make a co-host. Before you ask, because I know where you're going, first thing I tried, there is no way to pre-make someone a co-host before the meeting starts. So you can't in a calendar appointment say, I also want these two people to be co-hosts. It's not the way it works. It's only when it goes live. Sorry. Have fun.